you know what? And I think that last time, the other music gave us a copyright. So hopefully today is like a little bit better. Hopefully. But good morning. I hope you guys are having a good day. And that you're feeling good. I'm gonna put some music on for us. In the background.
Welcome. Please download the Cavalier app
And she's
follow
got a
the
lot to say.
instructions to set up your speaker.
She got a lot to say. Does that sound like you can't hear it though? It's okay. Yes, let's use the AI generated soundtracks. Let's go ahead and do that. You know, I don't want to get copyright anymore. Does it help me focus? Yeah. So not a real person. I know. This shit's so good sometimes. Sometimes. Okay. I just turned the heater on. Turn the heater on. I'm a tiny bit tired. I'm gonna make some. I'm gonna make some coffee. We're gonna make a little bit of breakfast. We're gonna go sit down at the table, talk for an hour. Hopefully we can make an hour video. Llama cup. Okay, and it's honestly going away, sadly. Sadly, it's okay though. Okay. And what should we have? Maybe a little bit. Does it not? Oh, see, that's why I don't like this one. It takes forever. Okay. Donut or dark roast? You know, I don't know. Oh, I was like, how is this gonna turn around? I guess so. One. Just one. Should I look up topics today? Should I? Should we do 10? I think 10. And let me wear these today. Cute. Today I want to make Spanish rice. Oh wait, let me put this in here. Let's wash it. Spanish rice. I have to do more meal prep. All my containers are washed, so we'll be able to do that. I feel like that'd be decent for YouTube as well. It's a Sunday. There's no plan. There's no rhyme or reason, but we will do a chat on YouTube for hopefully 30 minutes. We have to do chores. I'm gonna start some breakfast, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back after I do Pilates on Vigo. I wonder if I should stream that too. Stream that on live, like the Pilates workout for Sunday. I don't know. I'm still debating on that. I don't know if people will. I don't know. I get kind of nervous doing that on what do you call it, on YouTube. Okay, we have our cup of coffee. A little bit of vitamins to start. Welcome to the room. Let's plug the phone in. And actually, I'll have you right over here. I'm gonna have a little bit of vitamins to start. Is this too much? Maybe not. Because we're landscape, so I feel like it's harder to see. No. Let's just keep it up here. It's fine. It's fine. If we were vertical live, maybe. It's easier for me to do vertical live and show stuff. Like food and all that. Okay, let's get a bit of water. A little bit of water in here. I'll also be having my creatine in here and a little bit of magnesium. Oh, how loud is the music today? I was noticing on the last video it was way too loud. So I don't know if that's still too loud. I don't know. Also, I have to clean the filter out of here. This shit smells terrible. Not gonna lie. Smells like a fucking hamburger. I have to clean it. I have to clean the filter. If you don't clean your filter or your dishwasher, I don't know what to tell you, but I could almost guarantee you need some help. I have about 12.5 milligrams of zinc. I have some magnesium here. We have a little bit of shilajit, a little bit of resin. The magnesium, a teaspoon only. Making like a makeshift Gatorade. Has a little bit of like citric acid in this one. So it kind of does taste like lemon lime Gatorade. A little bit of magnesium, and I think this is about 40 ounces right here. Dilute that in a little bit of water. 4 capsules for our, what do you call it? Oh, you know what? I wanted to look this up. I wanted to start taking just 5. I don't know if I'm taking 10 right now. Let me see. Oh, this is only 3 grams. Oh. Well, but I'm a lady, so maybe I should take 3. If you're a man, take 5. Maybe this is fine, actually. We're gonna put it in the water because it's cold. We don't want the creatine to lose its chemical compound in a hot drink, so we won't put that in. Oh no, we won't put that in the coffee. We'll just put it in the cold water. We have about 4 capsules here to make about 3,000 milligrams. Okay. And then I'm gonna add, let's do one of those little packets for, I have iced peach tea, I have strawberry watermelon, and I have pink lemonade. I mean, you know. I kind of want peach tea. No, let's do strawberry watermelon. Okay. Strawberry watermelon. Okay. just a little. Add that. And then we'll shake it all up. I'll take a little bit of the Shilajit, and we're going to do, let's see, 600 milligrams. Okay. In the black coffee, take this little stick, measure it out. That's what it looks like. Put that in our coffee and stir it around. It's really, really hot, so it should take it right off of the stick here. This has a little bit of minerals from the Himalayas for the body. I'm not exactly sure which kind are in here, but I could look up it up for you guys if you're curious. And that would be nice for me to know. But it looks like this. It's just resin. And my God, I need new glasses. $16,000 to 18,000 foot altitude. That's all it tells me. 85 trace minerals and fulvic acid. I just work here. I don't fucking know. But I trust it enough that I'm gonna take it. Take mystery resin. Okay. Put that back in the cupboard. Okay. And we're not going to have any coffee until we drink about half of this water bottle. I've already had a little bit of water, but for breakfast, what should we have? Yeah, about 16 ounces. Too hot. Way too hot. Okay, let's have a banana for our workout. We'll slice that up. Okay. One day we'll have someone recording me. One day. Whoa. Okay. Brown inside. I actually, you know what? Forget I even showed you that. These aren't very good. Okay, and then we need a card. We have that banana. Let's do that. A little light breakfast, okay? I want about maybe 4. I don't really feel hungry right now, so. Five minutes. This is some rosemary sourdough bread. It's good. I like it. Some butter. Leave that out. A little salt. And a plate. Let's take this out. We need 1 banana. Take that. Okay, and then we'll slice it up. I'm going to just slice mine on a bias. Okay. Just that much. 20. Okay. If I have too big of a breakfast before my workout, I really start feeling like I don't want to. I get a little tired. So this will be enough. Plus, when I eat and have caffeine, or breakfast before I even have caffeine, if I have an energy drink or with coffee, I feel like the effects don't make me have like a big crash if I was to just be fasted, which I wouldn't mind if I went to the gym, so my workouts are at home. They are not such, it's not such an expenditure like maybe weight training would be, although my heart rate's getting up. I'm not at the gym for 2 hours, and streaming, talking, and like trying to like pay attention to that. So usually when I do Pilates or yoga, I am more focused on what I'm doing and don't have to necessarily read the chat as much. I can really just thank people as I'm streaming. But other than that, it's not as, it doesn't have added load. I'm not going to failure. I'm not going to like full exhaustion, like if I was to be training with weights. My recovery time is a lot shorter based on the intervals that I do, if it's Pilates. If it's power yoga, then at that point, yeah, I would probably, just, it depends on my mood at that point. Because even then I wouldn't consider it too intense. I sweat a lot during it, but I don't know, I guess if I do it for an hour, I can't do anymore. You know what I mean? If I go to the gym, I guess maybe it is more fucking intense now that I think about it. Damn. Yeah, because I can go to the gym for like hours, 2 hours even. But with power yoga, I can only do an hour. Otherwise I start feeling faint. Huh. And if I don't have breakfast before, I'm done. So it might help. It might help to have it in combination when I do that. Oh no! Why is my toast toasty? Why is my toast toasty? It's burnt a little bit. Burnt. It's a little burnt. Crunchy. Okay. A little bit of unsalted butter. I like to add my own. Sprinkle of salt. Okay, this is what we're working with so far. I want a little fork. Very good. protein was done, I'd eat that first. Or if we had a veggie, then at that point, in order, I'd have veggies, protein, carb. But I have bananas. Okay, let's check on them. Not quite ready. Oh, let's turn this on. I think I plugged it in and I forgot to turn it on. That wakes me. That will really wake me up. I should have brought my soft box in here, but I didn't. It's okay. I just want to make sure I can get it down. Just have some sort of food to take this zinc pill, because if not, I get extremely sick. I have such a terrible stomach ache. The sooner I eat, the sooner it starts to digest. So then, whenever I start my workout, I don't feel extremely full and uncomfortable. It's better crunchy, but I wouldn't have burned it. I think the right side gets hotter than the left. Is that crazy? A little bit of rosemary in the bread. Right now, rosemary's in season. This is a little bit more hardy of an herb. Can withstand the cold temperatures. Oh, they're done. Let's get them out. Okay. And I want a little bit of mustard with them. Usually have mustard, like just straight regular yellow mustard. It's 0 calories, just a lot of sodium. Sometimes that was really good. Like if I'm going to the gym, weight training, it allows for a little bit of water retention and makes the muscles look really full. Gives you like a really good pump if you're working out. So, but no extra calories if you're on a deficit. Keeps going on. So this one is horseradish mustard. It's a little spicy because of it. It's only 5 calories and it's a lot less sodium for this one. It's 55 milligrams per serving, but I usually have 1 serving. I usually have, I think it's two tablespoons a serving. This one's I only do half because I don't need very much. There they are. The turkey sausages are a little dry. So I like to make sure I eat them right away because they kind of shrivel up and they're not, turkey sausage is always, you know, a lot less fat, more protein. So sometimes they need a sauce, in my opinion, otherwise they're dry as shit. Okay. Let's move over there. Let's move over there. And we can be able to chat at that point. Our Christmas tree's done. Did you guys see it last time? We streamed the tree yesterday night. Okay. Let's go ahead and move you guys over here. Hopefully that's a little better. And let's see if this reaches the phone actually. So that was our little morning. Usually that's how it goes. Just vitamins, water, and food. And then come down to sit with you guys. So and by the time I'm done making my food, my coffee kind of cools down and I can start to drink it. I'm like, there's a system. There's a system for all of it, which is nice. Okay. Let's try to get the chat on. I don't think I get to see it here, but it's in front of me on that one, which is nice. We're here on Sunday. We're not usually, but I've been trying to make an effort to just show up on Twitch anyway, instead of kind of taking the day off, because really it doesn't really affect my schedule to just come on now at this time. Oh, I think the lights died. Or maybe, oh, actually, I might have turned them off. The tree is all decorated. And I love it. It looks good. A little bit of breakfast. And it's hot. I love when my food's hot. Last one. Well, I think today it'll be Probably a lighter yoga session. That was good. Oh. Okay. Cheers. Drinking Mama cup that's, you know, should have been through a lot. Don't worry about her. She's okay. She'll be okay. Is this dust? Or is that from me? Oh my God. I don't know what that is. I'm scared. Well, we got it out. The Shilajit makes it a little bit more, not more bitter, because coffee already is so bitter on its own, but salty, a little bit salty. Other than being bitter. I've been watching all the leaves fall off of this tree every single day, and every time I look out the window, it is the same. It is the same outside. And I say it every single time I stream, but it's true. It looks the same every day outside. But, you know. I have this lady that one of my clients that I clean for. She wanted me to clean for her more regularly than just, you know, the few times that I was. So she ended up having to go to the hospital, and she's out of the hospital now. But I was thinking about like how old she was. She's relatively around the same age as my dad, and maybe a couple years younger, not quite sure. But I was thinking about how she kind of was saying to me that, you know, she has heart problems and she can't have a lot of salt, and, you know, when she talks to me about her life, she always has so much, I know it's like fond memories, you know. And she was saying to me, like, my doctor says it's good for me to walk around, it's good for me just for the sake of me having a little bit of exercise. And then she also says, like, she used to host a lot of people and be moving around more, have people over her house, and all these things. But she never adopted a hobby for physical fitness early in her life, or care for nutrition in terms of how it affected her health really young in life. And the way she lives now would probably be something that, if it was me, I'd be miserable, you know. But granted, I'm sure you get to a place when you get older that you just accept your reality and just try to make the best of it until you pass away, you know. I mean, if you are able to do that, you know. But I just thought about it. I was like, I don't know if all my efforts, you know, will just still be compromised by something, you know, because there's things that we just probably can't control. Like, I know people that are really healthy and they got high blood pressure, you know, and I know other people that lived a life of physical fitness, but they ended up having, you know, bad backs, you know, or cancer, any of those things, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it is like, it's one of those things where I feel, oh, you know, why do all that work, you know? But in my opinion, it's not really, I guess I'm expressing the opinion that other people might have, but for me personally, it's like, well, I'd rather try and, you know, maintain it for as long as I possibly can until there's things I can't control that end up happening because of my age, you know, or things that might have compounded in my lifestyle or diet, to then affect me then. But I also think about it, sometimes when I reference those people who weren't necessarily able to have well, I retract that. Whenever I think about the people who have lived a life of fitness and have kept nutrition in mind, to then get like high blood pressure and stuff like that, I don't know. And then cancer too. I equate it sometimes with those people, then your diet kind of contains things that are, you know, 0 calories, you know, fat-free or low-fat. Protein bars come in a package. Protein powder is synthesized and packaged in plastic, you know what I mean? So a lot of that diet is synthetically altered. And all of those foods most of the time go through a process. If you're not eating like whole foods, which is really expensive for some people and maybe not accessible, or even, you know, just takes too much time for people. Well, I mean, that's an excuse, but you get what I'm saying. So it's much easier and convenient to have a bag of protein chips, you know, Quest protein chips that are like, you know, or, you know, like a fat-free yogurt, but to get max protein, you know, or, you know, to have 2 scoops of whey protein just to catch up on their protein goals, their macros at the end of the day when they've eaten whole foods all day, you know, or when they're out on vacation and they take things like that with them so that way they can still hit their macros, or be in a deficit, you know, or have meal replacers that are, you know, not gonna set them back, like having Cheez Whiz and crackers instead of, you know, oh, I don't have time to like pack a lunch or bring a lunch, so I'm just gonna bring this bag of chips. It's just like, you know, that has protein in it. It's like, but that is I want to say it could be a contributor to people's health still, despite them living a healthy lifestyle and based on the numbers, eating well, you know. I still don't think that that is a, you know, something optimal for longevity. And I have a lot of those things in my diet whenever I consider, you know, striving for some sort of aesthetic, striving for losing a certain amount of excess fat or things like that. So after some years, you know, I feel like that would compound and add up, and just how people would consider packaged foods, synthesized foods, you know, artificial things, like, you know, like banquet meals, or, you know, those Hungry Man TV dinners, or, you know, chicken nuggets that you put in the air fryer, you know, things like that. We know for certain that those people who are having a full processed diet are, you know, most of the time going to contract certain illnesses. And I think it's one of those nuanced things in like the health community where, you know, there's a lot of people who are advocates of whole food only, but I think there's some people who, there's another category of fitness, well, I'll just say influencers, or, you know, on the internet, where they do still live a life like that, where they are adding supplements in order to be able to maintain their aesthetic and to conserve their time and energy, because they don't want to cook probably whole foods or arrange whole foods, you know. So it is just one of those things I see, and I'm just like, my goal for myself, yeah, sure, I don't want to have to worry about money, but the thing about it is, you know, one of the main things I really want is to be able to afford good food. That's all. You know, just to be able to afford good quality food, have access to good food, and not feel overwhelmed by it, by the fact that I can't afford, or, you know, feeling set back or anything like that, because I don't know, I think of it like a video game, like an RPG. I'm not even kidding, it's like Sims. Every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, it's like when you first build your house and like all you can afford is the bullshit that looks used. But it's still on the catalog of furniture. The catalog of furniture to buy, and like your most expensive one looks clean and shiny and like, you know what I mean? I always make the reference, like whenever my shower tub gets dirty, it gets like, there's like a film that casts. When you use bar soap, it like makes the tub look even dirtier usually, and it may be at a faster rate even, versus like body soap, so it like looks gray, or, you know, the color of dirt, you know, in the shower. And I always look at it, I'm like, oh, I got the Sims tub, like I got the level 1 base tub right now, I gotta clean it. You know, that's all I can afford. Because it's also plastic, and so the dirt will cling to it in real life, you know what I mean? So I'm like, this is level 1. Like, this is level 1 live, you know what I mean? But, you know, the higher you get, it's just more convenient, you know, or you get to buy your time back. And, yeah, that's my goal. I just want to be able to buy my time. I want to be able to buy my time and not worry about what I put in my body, because I know it'll be exactly what it needs, you know? That's one of my goals. It's my probably my ultimate goal, you know? And then after I fulfill that, I'm gonna feel like I need something else to fulfill me, so I need to have another goal after that, and I just don't know what it is. Maybe just try to educate people, and that's it. Because it just makes me feel good to do that. To help people out. And to show them maybe just a new way. And not that they'd have to take on anything I say, you know, but to give people perspective that there's other things out there, you know. And even if my idea might inspire them to just do something different, and it may not even be that, to be inspired to do what I'm saying, but to be inspired that they have other means, you know, that there's other things out there so they can change their mind for themselves and their lives. Just to inspire the thought of, oh, you know, people are out there living different lives. Life isn't always like, you know, maybe they fail to find the beauty in their mundane life. Because at the end of the day, when there's no excitement, events, things you're looking forward to, goals, time spent with certain people, then you're left with yourself. You're left with nothing. And hopefully that might inspire people to say, well, I could also add stuff in if I want. You know, add stuff into my day that might benefit my overall life fulfillment, you know. So that's what I hope. I hope I can just inspire people to be okay with thinking differently. And even if it's not, you know, what I'm saying, I just mean in general, to be able to be okay to be optimistic and to not be married to your opinions, that you're allowed to change your behavior and your thoughts, your frame of thinking in order for you to get exactly what you need or want. I have probably, you know, one of those things that I notice a lot when it comes down to me thinking about, you know, how my body will be in the future and things like that. Hi, do you take requests for donations? It just depends on the request. And hello, welcome. Hi. But yes, it's oh wow. I hope this shit stays up there. Oh my fucking god, that is hilarious. Y'all need to see what I just seen. Fuck no, motherfucker. Damn. No, not explicit. That's hilarious. But like I was saying, it's just it's interesting, and it's something that really makes me strive forward. So I really hope that one day all of my efforts can be fulfilled, because my day is as full as I can make it at this point with the resources that I have and the allotted energy that I can get things out without feeling discouraged, you know. So, and some days I work past my limit, but I can only do that so many days a week, you know, throughout 7 days. So sometimes it's just to my limit, you know. And before I would work past my limit, but we're only regretful that it was on Bigo, because I feel like I would have had so much really good content. So now it feels for nothing, you know. But I didn't record it. I didn't have the capacity to record it. I didn't have, you know, capacity, like, you know, I didn't have another device to record. If I record from my phone, it would cut the audio, you know, things like that. So I just can't regret it. I just have to keep going. remember the ideas that would get me good engagement and things like that. So I think that's okay. Completely. It's okay. And I learned a lot, and I think that's most important. And I don't think people get an opportunity to learn like that all the time, you know. And some people that get opportunities don't live the same lives, and they weren't taught the same things or experienced enough things to learn, you know, at the same time receiving the fruits of their labor. So sometimes people blow it. Some people don't know how to manage it. Sometimes people don't know how to progress from where they're at. And I guess it's, you know, I can't just think, you know, I can't just think it is a waste, you know. Whenever I first started to stream, I was still in a bad mental place. I was grieving my father. And life goes on, you know, and that pushed me to be able to stream while grieving and feeling like the world's, you know, falling on top of me. And like my world's stopping almost. And wasn't even taking care of myself. You know, really. And masking it. So I know that I have it in me to keep going and to push and to work hard, because I went through something so hard and still realized that life goes on and I could just have this outlet, you know, which is nice. So that is one of my motivators, to know that it is possible, you know. And yeah. And I need new prescription. I don't know if it's a good thing if I wear my glasses that don't have the right prescription, or if I should. I don't know. And I just accept the fact that my eyes are gonna get bad one day, like really bad. Because I stream, I remember going to the eye doctor last time, the optometrist, and they said, how many hours a day are you on a computer screen, or, you know, on a screen in general? I said about at least 8 hours. And he looked at me, he said, huh? Oh, that's not good at all. Like fucking shook his shit. I'm so fucking sorry, sir, but it's the truth. I almost gave him a fucking heart attack. He looked at me like I was tripping. And he even asked me if I was in school, and I was like, oh no, like I live stream for a living. Like, that's my whole life, you know, that's all I do, is live stream. And he was like, oh yeah, that's not good. I would suggest that every 20 minutes you take a break and look away from the screen and look out into the distance. And I said, bet. Whatever I need to do. Fuck yeah, you know. So sometimes I'll remember, but a lot of the time I'll stream in like a very low light setting, because it makes me feel comfortable to do that. But I think I also don't really like the the lights in my room, which is also what I wanted to do on stream for Twitch. I wanted to do the final touches in my room. Sorry, can you hear my stomach? And put all my tiny lamps up in my room. And that's what I wanted to do. It is still something I'm going to do. We already did one of the ideas, which was Christmas tree, but yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. I can't wait, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited. And I'm just happy that I have a place to be able to do it. And I can't reinvest in my stream like I was able to 2 years ago. My life's different now, it's changed. And I have other goals that I'm achieving that aren't related to my stream. And it takes a lot of my money to do that. So right now I don't have a lot, but hopefully I'm enough. And when I first started, I wouldn't make any excuse, you know. I would stream in my car a lot of the time because I didn't have a place to stream. I felt like my car was like so dirty, and like I had, thankfully I had like an ex-boyfriend's mom who sold me the car like years before that. And she still let me keep the car even though we broke up. And she let me pay her for it. And that was my first car and my only car. And it was used, and she took really good care of it. And she sold it to me for $1,000, and I paid her $1,000. She was just had my back, you know. She knew I'd take care of it. I want to cry thinking about it, because if I didn't have my car, I don't know where I'd be. I really don't. I don't think I'd be able to live as much and experience as much as I did. But I took care of it, you know. And I earned it. I remember, like, I wasn't even really making a lot of money. I think I made, like, I don't know, probably like $1,000, if not like not $800 at the time, every month. I was under 10K a year. I couldn't even file taxes, you know, because if you don't make 10K, then you're not liable for taxes. You don't need to pay. And I remember she sold me during that time, because I didn't start paying taxes until I think 2020, and so, or sorry, 2019. So yeah, it was an eye-opener that after I look back on it, like, she knew that's all I could afford. She did my taxes. She knew, you know, that's the only reason why. She knew that she could charge me that to be able to make that much, but I never forget her for that, and I really appreciate her for doing that for me. If I wouldn't have been able to get in my car and go, I wouldn't have been able to live my life. That was so extremely difficult. For anybody looking at what I've went through, probably they'd say, I don't understand how you're still here. You know, so and they're probably right. You know, maybe I would have, whatever, you know, but you know, I'm glad that and to some degree I've always been able to think for myself and have self-belief and listen to my gut feeling in my heart and set boundaries, you know, for myself, and to learn boundaries, because my boundaries had been tested, you know. I think that whenever you're so sensitive, life tests you more, because you're more open to take on things that come your way, because you have a lot of naivety or trust or sensitivity to do all those things and allow yourself to not be afraid, or have the self-awareness to be precautious or fearful, you know. So I'm glad, you know, that whether I knew in the moment or not, but I still was willing to face all of my decisions in the moment, you know. And it showed me a lot based on the interactions I would have with people, and what people are willing to do closest to you, you know, and what they'd allow. and how perception of somebody can really be shocking to know, like the actual truth, you know, that he taught me at a really young age that, you know, not everything's is what it seems. And my dad would tell me this a lot whenever I was younger. He would tell me, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. And you know, and I guess I always remember that because I really discovered at a very young age that it was true. You know, all that's very true to some degree, you know, so. And I think it's made me not smart, but wise, you know, because you can do a smart thing, but I feel like if you're thinking about the long-term effect of your decision, then you're wise. If you're thinking about something that's going to sustain you temporarily, not being able to compound and affect your life for the better, then I think that's a smart decision, you know. And I think timing is meant for things to be smart, for them to be effective. And I think that time would be that determination for things to become more wise. I can use the example of, maybe this is really shitty or people wouldn't understand it, but when you buy like designer brand, you know, they're usually using material that's durable, maybe even weatherproofable. It can withstand time and has more durability. Usually the hardware on the item itself is a little bit more durable, doesn't tarnish usually, you know. The item is, you know, meant for longevity. So you don't have to keep buying fast fashion or something like that because your fast fashion might break sooner than had you invested a lot of money into that designer item. You know, it could be clothing as well, 100% cotton, you know, really good stitching, things that have good weave patterns that make sure that they don't rip, etc. You know, that can handle being washed and dried often, whatever it may be. It's designer, right? Somebody might tell you, you should probably buy things that are designer, that way they last a long time, and over time you don't spend a lot of money because you're not having to keep buying stuff, and it's meant to last, built to last. Well, I'd say that that's smart, but is it wise? What if the person's circumstance is, I don't make enough money to pay my bills, I don't make enough money to support myself outside of paying my bills, I don't make enough money to, you know, even afford good quality food to eat, or what if I have children, or what if, you know, there's lots of things that people would, you know, think of that would be thinking, you know, why the fuck would you be buying this designer purse if you can't even afford to pay your rent, you know, or this designer luxury bag, because it's, you know, it's durable, and over time it would pay for itself because it means you wouldn't have had to buy as many things or as many shirts or whatever, you know. I don't think that that's a wise decision. I think it's appropriate based on the timing and the circumstance to make certain decisions that are going to be smarter now to be wise over time, if that makes sense. If you don't have a budget that allows that, then why would you do it? I learned that when I was young. My mom, she raised me frugal. We didn't have a lot, but she made sure that we didn't, you know, lose our house. Sure, she did her best, you know, and there was other things she put her money towards. Instead of, you know, fixing our roof and fixing the bedroom that had water damage and no roof basically in there. The insulation's coming out. The lights didn't work. The lights didn't turn on in the bathroom. Never got them replaced. You know, the lights turned off in the kitchen. Never got them replaced. Never had baseboards. You know, because of that, we struggled with rats, roaches, whatever the case was, you know. Because it was too expensive to get a pest control. It was too expensive for her to buy lights. It was too expensive for her to get a whole new roof when she couldn't pay her rent. You know, we just made it work. You know, no heater, no AC, and I live in the fucking desert. It gets cold. It doesn't snow. You know what I mean? Unless you're in the mountains, you'll freeze to death. But I live in the valley, so it was like you weren't gonna freeze, but you did need like 7 blankets from Costco. You know, so why would she go out and buy designer stuff if what her needs are not even met? You know. Then I think, yeah, you're fucking stupid. You're foolish at that point for doing that, if that's what you do. I'm sorry. Like, if you're in a situation that that's the case, I don't know what to tell you. And I remember one of the times I moved out from my mom's house, I was living with a relative, and I was buying like Suave shampoo or VO5. It was like $1, you know, it's at the Dollar Tree. Suave is like probably Walmart. I don't know if they still they used to have Suave when I was like a little kid at Dollar Tree, but now Suave is like $2 or some shit. I don't know, they thought they were big and bad, but regardless, I was buying cheap ass shampoo and conditioner. And I remember I made enough money to pay all my bills and get my hair dyed. So I got my hair dyed and I started to dye it blonde. But the first time I dyed it, it was just brown, you know, it was very, very subtle of a change, you know. And I was still buying that really shitty shampoo and conditioner. I didn't understand, even though I knew, you know, I was supposed to get really expensive shampoo and conditioner to like maintain the color and all those things. Hello, appreciate you. Thank you, you too. Yes, I'm doing great, thank you. But yeah, I just didn't think about it. And I remember that relative was like, you need to buy better shampoo, you need to buy this, you need to buy that, you need to buy expensive stuff to like maintain the color and stuff like that. And I'm like, she was like, we can at least go half on the stuff, like half on the, you know, the bottles. If you buy it at Costco, then, you know. And I had a membership, but I didn't use it because I only used it for like food, because at the time I was on food stamps. And so I'd only be going to Costco to buy bulk food with my food stamps. I wouldn't be buying the products, you know, because I couldn't afford it. And she just convinced me at that point, or I don't know, she just made it sound good. Maybe I couldn't even tell her no, I was just scared, you know. So even though it was $10 or $13 a big ass bottle for the two of us, I was just like, I can't afford that. I only make so much money, you know, I'm gonna go broke. But I didn't tell her that, but I knew. And I just wanted to keep the peace because I knew she wasn't receptive to, you know, whether it be new ideas, the truth, criticism, because it would affect her, because that's how she lived her life. And she'd probably take it personally, you know, because she always bought really expensive things, but she couldn't afford it. And I knew she couldn't afford it because she was always behind on her bills. And I only knew that because I paid some of her bills before. So it was just kind of like, wow, why am I even here, first of all, if you can't afford to have me here, you know? And she wanted me to, she cared for me enough to give me a place to stay, and I'm grateful, but, you know, it was very much like, you're not even managing you don't know how to manage your money. You know, why are you gonna put that on me when you know I don't even have, I think at one point I didn't even have a job when I moved in with her, you know what I mean? Like, I lost my job. So it's like, you know, it's like, that's stupid. You're supposed, I knew since before I lived there, but I was too afraid to say it, you know? I was too afraid of her, you know? And, because I didn't want to disrupt the flow in her home. And I ended up buying it, and I just won't let that happen again, you know? I just won't. I won't be afraid to voice my opinions about how I feel is more important for my life, my wise decisions in life. I'm not gonna let anybody just, you know, make me feel like I can't speak up, you know, even though it's shampoo and conditioner, but it's the principle, it's the fact that why would somebody who can't manage money allow me to change my mind about how I know is more appropriate for my life and my being able to fund things. Yes, she was teaching me, it was the principle for her. Yes, I should maintain my hair and I shouldn't damage it by putting this terrible product on it. So yes, colorant safe shampoo is really a thing and it does work, but it should have been, sweetie pie, if you're not going to be able to get this, I don't know if it'll ruin your hair, you know, and maybe since you didn't really dye it a whole lot of a different color, you know, maybe you just let it grow out, because who knows if you'd be able to afford it. She's not going to have that perspective because that's not how they spent their money. You know, they just buy it anyway. So of course she didn't know that. And I knew if I told her that, it would give her some sort of, you know, defensive reaction. And since I knew that, I just kept my mouth shut and I complied. But yeah, I think it's more appropriate to be, it would be a smart decision, but I'd rather be wise long term and accept what I can't afford and accept that certain things are considered luxuries, or, you know, things like that, or luxury wants or services. You know, a lot of those things are not necessarily a necessity, you know, things like that. Yeah, I feel what you mean. You know, right, but you know, it's a stupid fucking analogy. but that's my point, is I should probably consider when it's appropriate to be smart than wise. So if I made a lot of fucking money and all my bills were paid and I had things that were paying for itself at that point, or, you know, I was getting paid enough to where my deficit of bills was so low that I had an expenditure, an excess, a surplus of money, then at that point, yeah, it would be smarter, you know, to buy something that's going to account for me buying years and years of the same thing, you know, like bulk food or bulk items, you know, then they would make more sense because you can afford it at that time, you know. But yeah, I just was thinking about that earlier today in terms of wise decisions and smart decisions. I think it's appropriate based on circumstance and time. And I don't know, I feel like money is such a weird taboo topic somehow still. So I don't know if anybody else like feels the same way, or they deal with people in their lives that are like that, you know. But I'm glad that now I won't let it happen, you know. Won't let people put onto me their bad habits, even if it sounds good, to really think about what they're saying, you know. And I'm so glad that my mom taught me frugality, like how to be frugal. Frugality, I don't even know if that's a fucking word. I think it's just frugal. The frugal mindset, you know. And granted, she really misspent a lot, but she still knew better, you know. And which is more of a foolish thing than anything. But you know, I could separate it now that I'm older. Like, yeah, she was right though. She was saying the right thing, but she still failed to show up. I was dealing with a person that I was living with who didn't know and still didn't do the right thing. You know what I mean? So it was like double bad in my opinion. So, well, you know, just as bad. I think it's worse if you know better, but you still choose not to. That's literally on you, you know. You're afraid or you don't want to. You know, I think what my mom is way worse, but, you know, hopefully she learned from that. I don't blame them. They kept me alive, you know. But how I want to live my adult life, I don't think it's an example, is all I'm trying to say. Discernment. The difference between being wise and smart really changes the angle of where you engage something. Yeah, I get what you mean. That's how I feel. But most, you know, I watch my friends and, you know, some of my family members kind of listen to those people who are older, and you know, they're living lives that they probably don't want, or they're living lives I don't want, you know, lives that are keeping them in the same spot. is how I deem why I don't want their life, but they're taking those people's advice, you know, but they're not living by their advice, or they're not really thinking about their advice. And when I was younger, I really am so glad that I was able to have lots of self-awareness. Because as I grew up, I realized lots of people didn't, you know. And that person I'm referencing, you know, they were older, not their 60s like my mom, but they were definitely older than fucking me. You know, they were in their 50s. So it was kind of like one of those things where I'm just like, it also taught me a lot of people just don't grow up. They just get old, you know. They don't learn to be better. They don't look inward. They don't try to find out where something's going wrong. You know, they just figure, you know, I'm old enough, no one can tell me shit anymore. So it was just like, I don't know if it's an ageist thing as well, where I was feeling like I could already even, very true. I was like, I could even like recognize in that person that if I was to tell them the truth, they probably wouldn't accept the truth. So in my mind, it would have been smart for me to tell her, but wise long term, I'm like, I already know how this person is, so why would I waste my breath and time, you know? So it felt much easier to keep the peace than to ever tell them the truth, even though they demanded the truth, because I knew they couldn't handle the truth. So it was wiser for me to shut up, and that way I could just leave the interaction, go to my room, and just carry on with my day and just keep going, you know? So, because it would have been a waste of time. I wouldn't have been able to get through to them if I did bring it up, if they did have that reaction or not. They couldn't handle a younger person telling them something wise. Just staying the same age mentally and emotionally. Yeah, exactly. 100%. And like I'll sit back and like hang out with them, and I'm literally like, there's no way that these people are thinking like that, and they're older than me. It was always a shock, you know. So, you know, it was just shocking, and that's it. And it's unfortunate, and I'm not nobody's mom, and it probably because, you know, I have sometimes I have a hard time like remembering what I'm gonna say, especially if I have all the like willingness to focus, and I have a stutter, and I get intimidated by people that I love if they're not like welcoming and warm and loving like me, like don't know how to show love. So then it like kind of shuts me down. Thankfully I've grown out of it, you know, but I still have that much compassion to not hurt their feelings or ruin their day or make them upset at me. So then I just would rather be quiet. Like I was saying, like I just took the fucking loss and was like, this is a waste of time. Like she's gonna take it personally. Because I have a boundary that would be beneficial for both of us, you know? Like, let's not spend more than we can afford, you know? And so I didn't. But now I wouldn't let anybody run my fucking pockets, you know what I mean? Like, what? You know? So, and thankfully I'm probably now more comfortable with myself and like more aware that I'm not wrong, because they would make me feel wrong. And I trusted them and was empathetic towards them, so that I wanted to consider what they're saying. But now after removing myself from the situation, it's like, oh, they just couldn't handle that I was right. So they made me feel wrong, you know what I mean? I can understand that, wanting to be honest and lay out your feelings. Not wanting to hurt them and possibly yourself. Yeah, because it would make the environment like hard to navigate at that point, you know? It would be like, oh, there's tension now. Oh, like her feelings are hurt and she thinks that I'm trying to like correct her, or like, you know, just for the sake of doing it, make her feel like shit. And you know, like she doesn't understand I'm trying to help, you know? Thinks I'm just being criticizing her, you know? So I just, if I didn't know how to convey that, and even if I did try to, she would take advantage of my vulnerability and my attempt to, you know, be soft and considerate with her and like give her information. She would still take offense to it because she's hearing the words and she's just so sensitive, you know, like more sensitive than me at that point. Like, and I'm sensitive as shit, but you know, like it would be taken advantage of if I tried to, like, you know, and not that if I had to try, I was. So always, so I realized like, oh, like they just want to take advantage of my vulnerability and try to make me still feel like shit. So, you know, just because they feel like shit. And it would be offensive to them to know that like somebody younger than them, like I said before, would be telling them something they should know. And I analyzed that, and I was just like, it's a waste of time. And if I don't have the skills to be able to withstand their tantrum or their spiteful remarks at me, then it's like, yeah, we're actually getting nowhere and wasting complete time. Like, now it's an emotional battle. You made it emotional, so if I know they're gonna go there, then it's a waste. It can be a difficult thing to navigate. I'm still learning myself as well. Yeah. And I didn't know that in the moment, that I was having to navigate people who were in denial. Does that make sense? And so then they'll make you believe their lies. And so I'm like, oh God, like, no, I was right all the fucking long. I felt, you know, like I should give them a chance because they were louder than me. They were more charismatic. They were more, you know, confident in their decisions when they vocalize them. And, you know, it almost just makes you feel like intimidated. And then you feel, you know, like, not to say it's stupid behavior, but it is kind of like you're just kind of like not listening to the words they're saying, and you're just going based on how they're making you feel. If someone can say bullshit and be so confident saying bullshit that it makes you want to believe it. And that was happening to me, you know? And I was literally sitting there like, okay, well, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, considering it, you know? And like not really they wouldn't even give me a chance to think for myself, you know? And I wouldn't let myself either, because I was just letting myself be fearful, you know? Not just like being agreeing, you know? Yeah. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I'm just like, I'll never at that point, like, forget who I am and forget what I do know and be able to say, no, that's not right. Or no, that's right, but long term it won't work. You know, how are we gonna get out of the situation of being broke if we don't start now? You know what I mean? So it's like, there's a way to get out of that mentality, you know. Money is a mindset, you know, and it's just a tool. And I'm so glad I know that. And I never forgot it. And temporarily, all I'm saying are the lessons learned. You know what I mean? In the moment, I'm just scared and just, okay, yeah, sure, keep the peace, you know. But I'm looking back on it, you know, hindsight's 2020, and it's like, I felt that way because I knew it was wrong, you know. And wrong for me. I don't give a fuck how people live their life, but it was affecting me because she wanted me to buy the fucking shampoo for the both of us. I'm like, you buy it. You know what I mean? She's like, I'm gonna go half. She never paid me. I never asked her for the money. I knew she didn't have the money. So, you know, I don't need to take responsibility for the way other people live their lives. I don't need to let anybody change my mind about what I know the truth is. I don't need to stoop down to anybody's emotional intelligence. I could just keep being myself, and I'll just be okay with that. I'm gonna have to be okay with being me, even if I'm told I'm wrong, and listen to their words. I still should consider what they're saying, because I should give people a chance, yeah, but I shouldn't let how they made me feel while telling me that try to convince me. I have to have a grasp on me. I have to have a grasp on my sense of being able to think for myself and not lose that just because somebody's making me feel intimidated. And they're closest to me, so I would allow it more, because it's like, well, you are somebody I love, you know, so, you know, I notice when people are being manipulative, notice when people are being defensive, notice when people are maybe even casting a little bit of resentment, projecting, you know. So it taught me a lot, and it taught me how much boundaries are important, and how I would have a lot of boundary instances with them, and they'd look at me like I'm crazy, and it's like, well, no, like, I have morals and principles, I have values, you don't. you know, but they'll look at you crazy because you're finally the one person putting your foot down, and then you'll be casted as a black sheep. So I'm glad that, you know, I can look at them and still be like, oh, you're in the same spot in terms of that, you know. Some people will just change one aspect and make it seem like it's covering up all the other bullshit. So it's like, no, I still see your root issue. I still see your root issue. I see it. You can do all you want to do. You can flash all you want to do that makes your life look good, but how are you actually living, you know? So, and I'm glad I had that ability to see it and had those examples of people closest to me in my private life to show me those lessons. I wasn't out in the public getting fucking feelings hurt by a stranger, you know? So I'm glad that it was contained and I could just silently learn and move on from it, you know? Yeah. Yeah, and then that started to make me feel bad for them. I'm like, wow, you guys are coping really hard. And then I started to see the irony in them. They'd always demand for the truth. They'd always want people to be straightforward like they were when nobody asked them to be. And I noticed that whenever I did vocalize a real heavy truth, that it would always be that same reaction of not being able to accept the truth when being told. But you'd always want to demand telling the truth to others who didn't ask and would deem you as an asshole at that point. But you said the truth, and that's what you value. It'd be ironic if you couldn't hear the truth about you. And so then at that point, it's like, I also learned, like, I'm not going to talk about anything, I'm just going to be about it, you know? Like, you know, I don't want to look foolish or hypocritical, so I learned that too. So I remember one time they told me too, and it's funny because they told me when they were drunk, so it's like, I don't know if they could have said that when they're sober, but they were like, you know, I noticed you don't really say the truth. You don't really say the truth. You know, you're not really a person that's going to be there for your friend and say the truth. And it's like, I wouldn't say it if it's not worth my time. I wouldn't say it if I knew they would take my advice for granted. I wouldn't say it if it was just going to cause an emotional strife. I wouldn't say it if they were not going to use the advice. Like, if they're stubborn, you know what I mean? Like you, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to waste my time with this. I have a boundary for that, to conserve my energy, my time. It's a personal boundary, you know? But I didn't say anything. I just let them say that. I'm like, and I also learned there's no point in trying to deal with somebody who's, you know, inebriated. So, and I already learned that lesson living with my mom. So there's a way to treat people when they're drunk. And a lot of people don't know. They just take them as a real person in the real moment, thinking they're real thoughts. And like, granted, they could be real thoughts, but they still don't have the emotional awareness is gone. You know, your decision making is out the door, you know. Your discernment for what's a correct decision is out the door. Impulsivity comes to play, you know. So it's kind of like beating a dead horse. So there's no point. It's just you're not gonna have something effective. You just guide them. That's it. You know. It's just not worth the time and energy, right? So, you know, I learned a lot from all of that. And I could have been upset, you know, and I could have been unforgiving, and I could have been, you know, not grateful for them. I could have been all these things. I could have been scorn, but I'm glad I had those instances to share, you know. That's one of those examples of some sensitivity. If I had been like them, I could have shut them down. You're like, oh, whatever. No, I don't even want to talk about this right now. I probably would have never heard what they were going to say because I was too afraid of being sensitive and listening to them, you know, even though it taught me a hard lesson to take the consideration to buy the shampoo because I was so sensitive. I was just like, oh, open ears, oh. Not realizing that now I can be optimistic and not be so bound to my beliefs that I can't hear anybody. So it taught me that, like, oh, you know, I should conserve some of that, you know, because I'm not going to walk around thinking I'm right all the time. And you never know who you can learn from. Even if, like this person, I could learn from it still. There was something to still value and learn, like how not to be or how I should be, or, you know, to trust my gut. You know, it still teaches you lessons. So it taught me how to be receptive. It taught me how to make friends with all kinds of different people, even if they don't live lives I fucking, you know, want. But I can still love and appreciate some aspect of them, you know. It made me a more friendly person. It's made me, you know, a more open-minded person, and a person that's strong enough to not feel so, you know, to take everybody's actions personally that don't actually affect my life, you know. So that means I can make sure that people can be them around me. They can be themselves around me, and I don't take anything that they do in their life personally, because I have to respect that and understand I'm not living their life. Why would I try to change somebody? You know what I mean? That means I'm just like, I want to have some people that are like me that are my friends. Like, no, I want to be your friend because you're you. You know, and I appreciate how you live your life, and you know, in some way that's beautiful, you know. So I could have been not learning anything from it and just saying they just hurt my feelings, they're mean. I didn't learn anything. Yeah. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with accepting that I was hurt, to even look inward and say, how did I get here? I'm hurt because I was too afraid of them. That's the root. I was hurt because I wasn't able to know trust myself enough, you know. That's it. That's all that was. So that says a lot more work I have to do for me than really it's their fault. Because even if they told me all that today, I know how to diffuse them. That would have saved me all of that effort, you know, and me not getting emotionally charged would have probably gave that perspective of like, maybe I consider what she says. And then years later they do, without giving me credit. So I know that I was right if I see that their lives changed and I was the first one to tell them these ideas, you know. So, and that's what I take is that, like, oh yeah, they were probably resentful of the fact that I was younger, trying to put them on, you know, so, or, you know, they felt inferior, they were intimidated. There was things they were addressing that I was setting boundaries with. They protected themselves so much, they acted like they didn't have problems, they didn't want anything wrong with them. So, you know, they dealt with so much criticism in their life, you know, it didn't matter who was saying it to them or how it was being said to them. You know, they didn't want to be questioned, whatever the case was. Like, there was so much stuff that I would resurface for them without me even doing anything, because I was probably something they wish they were at my age, that they're still learning at their old ass age. So, you know, that to them is projection of intimidation. Like, I was probably the goat in their fucking mind, but they didn't want me to know it, you know, and they didn't know how to show it. Whatever the fucking case was, you know, it is what it is. Like, I'm not over, and that's another thing too. I'm like, I'm not over here being bodacious at all, and these people are, and so that's what I mean by being foolish. I'm just like, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. You know what I mean? Take it or leave it. If you ask me for advice, I'm going to give you some. If you didn't ask, I'm not going to just be like, do it my way, and I'm not even living by it. You know? No, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't know. You know, I'll just say, I don't know. Always, you know, oh, never mind. I thought that was something new. But yeah, you know, it taught me a lot. And it helped me remind myself of who I was. If I didn't go through that, you know, I wouldn't have known. That's just one instance of, you know, just being grateful. Being grateful for them. That, unfortunately, I was experiencing that with them, you know. They should be the closest people to me since they're my family, but I still am appreciative that they were the way they were, and I can learn those lessons there. Not in the public eye, you know, not with other people that I might have met in my life that would have gave me opportunities in my life. I didn't soil it with anybody but them. Not to say I'm glad it was them, but in a way I can just be appreciative of that, you know. it was still taught. It was still shown to me, you know. I was able to experience that part of my life and learn lessons, and I wasn't 60 when I learned it, you know. Oh, and being that as well. People such in yourself who challenges the way that others are thinking are deemed as intimidating. And it was hard for me to understand that, because I had this perception of like intimidation being like how they were, you know, tough, don't care about anybody's opinion but their own, would show that, would exude that, you know, all ready to shut you down. You know, if you didn't look like you knew how to express yourself, they would just deem you as you don't know or you don't understand, you know. And it was just so emotionally charged that I thought that was the definition of intimidation. And someone's taking the act of intimidating somebody, you know, by doing that. But so that's what I thought it was. And it is, of course it is. It can still be categorized as that, but I didn't realize that me just being, you know, remembering my morals and values and acting on them is a different version of intimidation for them, because it reminds them of what they're escaping. And that's the real fear. It incites fear in them of what they push down and suppress. And some people are too afraid to see that, you know, it's because it means they're going to have to change, or they're not right, or they want to, you know, they want to feel right, and it invades that or obstructs it, you know, that they can't feed themselves bullshit anymore to make themselves feel okay. They already have a shitty coping mechanism that works for them because it keeps them contained, you know. Kind of cast a mirror where where they realize their mindset, their mindset can be challenged and might be wrong. Or yeah, okay, yeah, I get what you mean. And so I had to learn that, you know, and I'm 27 and I'm okay with that, because if I'm, not to be comparative, but to think of that in terms of, you know, older people that I'm learning that from, I'm like, I'm okay. If anything, I'm 10 steps ahead. And I say ahead in terms of like life and time, you know. So that means my life will be easier to navigate. So I think it's a virtue if people are able to, like, back to the car, you know, have freedom to be able to experience life, even if it's like the worst parts of it. And that's just one instance where I learned like several lessons, you know, because I really sat and thought about it, all the angles, you know. So I don't regret it, and I'm grateful that they loved me to an extent of wanting me to have just a, you know, not be badgered all the time, ironically enough. Still, you know what I mean? But they had the intention of being able to give me a place to live where I felt cared for. And a lot of the time I did. You know, I say those things, but they just weigh a lot because they affect me longer than the good moments, which is unfortunately the truth, you know. But that doesn't mean they're bad people, you know. They just don't know how to love. And they were never probably shown adequate love. And I think they needed a lot more than they realize. And then they live a life like that, you know. And I say now, if somebody's really close to me, they should get the best of me, you know. The best. Not strangers. Even if that means like to convey a point to help them in their life. They had like a, you know, pick yourself up by your bootstraps type of mentality and love. And I realized that's just not one size fits all. You know, people have different temperaments. They receive things differently. They're emotionally charged about certain things in their life. People have different values, different morals. They've learned different things up until now. Some people have never been able to understand themselves. Like the next person, they only know themselves as deep as they've been able to discover themselves, experience their life, deal with emotions however much they've learned in their life compared to another person. So I can't judge anybody, you know, and I didn't judge them in the moment. You know, I just let myself feel bad. I let them hurt me, you know, and I let them hurt me for a long time. And hopefully one day they come around. Hopefully one day they give me a chance to show them, hey, this is what I meant, and, you know, to be more confident in what I say. I'm not here to change anybody. I probably would never change them, you know. It's just giving me a chance to separate myself and know what I need, you know. So I'm glad about that. And my dad would tell me that too. So I remember when he would let me know, you know, it's okay if you don't know, so long as you show up, you know. So it's okay that they did that. They just didn't know. And hopefully they show up. But if they don't, I can't let it affect me, you know. I have to separate myself from that, because then if that's the case, I'll never be able to have a relationship with them. I won't be able to forgive them for what they did, you know. How they were being, how they didn't even know they were being, you know. How it affects other people. And I can remove that part. I'm strong enough to do that, you know. Yeah. And that was unfortunate because, like, I remember one instance where, like, even at the time, you know, I was able to, but all they heard was criticism and questioning, that they couldn't understand it. And at the time too, it was bad. I had realized it was bad timing because I didn't realize how drunk they were. So they just resided in not rational thinking, you know. And I think that we probably wouldn't have had so many instances like that. So it also made me realize, like, time and place, you know. They weren't ready. I was. And even if the alcohol wasn't involved and they still had that reaction, I think no matter what, it was still okay for me to, you know, ask questions to them and do exactly what I did, because I knew, you know, I wasn't shouting at them or being spiteful or mean or, you know, trying to corner them or, you know, force a sorry out or something like that. I'm just trying to understand them, you know. I was trying to understand them in that moment, take time to do that. So I've been able to learn that thus far. And I don't regret that, but I do know that in that moment when I tried, they were spiteful, you know, and they made me feel really bad, made me cry, you know. It hurt my feelings real bad and completely pivoted the point of, like, they made it an emotional thing and they tried to make me feel small when I was the one with the issue of their behavior, and I was trying to understand their behavior. So if I didn't do anything, that means I would have allowed the behavior. But next time I'll do it at a different time where I feel like I'll get a better result. I won't stand for people disrespecting me. I won't stand for people that close to me disrespecting me. Strangers, you know, I'm a streamer, you know what I mean? Like, fuck it. Like, they don't know me. But if somebody that close to me, wouldn't let that happen. Somebody I work with wouldn't let that happen. Because it's like, hey, we're grown. We're too grown for that. So, you know. There's a point where I won't try, though. If I tried all I could, and if I did all I could, then yeah, I'll just let it go, you know. Our relationship can't be that. I can't, we'll talk about something else, you know. I'll just go hang out with them when it's about different things, you know. Bring up certain topics, avoid certain ones, you know. Navigate that more. And if they have questions for me, then I'll be able to be calm, collected, and be okay if they don't understand, you know. That way I won't let their intimidation affect me. Have a good sense of self and control of my feelings, and separate my feelings, and have awareness of them. And I understand them, like I'm saying. They don't know how to express what they mean without hurting people, you know, so I could still think about what they say in the moment and be like, yeah, well, and still have a conversation, you know. I can be strong enough to do that. Thankfully, I can do that now. Thankfully, I can just hear people now, you know. I can hear their words, and I won't let them try to affect me, you know, try to find resolve as the goal, not, you know, not be upset that they don't want to show me love, you know, because I don't need their love, I don't need their approval, I don't need validation, you know, so, and if that's true, then it shouldn't. Maybe they had never had anybody take enough time with them. Maybe some people didn't have patience for them, you know, and they felt better when people would just get shut down by whatever they say. They didn't have anybody be able to withstand them, you know, and they never learned, and they were never really fully challenged because someone didn't be able to stand the test of time with them, you know, somebody who was just able to be calm and strong, you know, not matching them or making it go down south. So, I mean, you know, like, have it just be ruined and unresolved. And they apologized to me, and it took a lot for them to do that, but I realized they couldn't do it in front of me. So that said a lot to me that day, you know, like, they're afraid. So, as someone who's been in a somewhat similar situations, it's nice to hear someone else verbalize out loud a lot of the thoughts, feelings I haven't had the chance to talk to anyone about. Yeah. And it feels lonely when that happens, you know, like maybe you are exactly what they're saying, too sensitive. They would tell me that. So then I wouldn't express it because I'm like, oh, something's wrong with me. No one's going to understand me because I am too sensitive. But that's a projection. That's a way for them to cope with it. To cope with what you're saying. Helps me bring even more perspective to things I previously thought a lot about. Yeah. And like back to what we were saying earlier, like it's like a gut feeling. It's probably something that's resonating with you deeply. And it affected me for probably 5 years, 6 years almost. So I'm glad that I just decided this year, I'm like, I'm gonna just sit and think about it all. I have to sit and think about it because I don't want to be like them. Because with any other instance, I would do that immediately. I'd think about why I'm hurt. And this would be the first time in my life for 5 years I just ignored it and believed what they were saying to me. And then this year I was like, I keep feeling this way though. Let me unpack it. And I did. And I was like, this is what I used to do when I lived at my mom's house. I'd go get my feelings hurt somehow, and I'd just cry immediately when I got home, and I'd cry for a week straight, maybe, dealing with myself. And I learned those lessons early. That's why I learned early, it's because I faced it. And I'm like, see, look at that. I didn't listen to my heart, what my brain was telling me, like you keep going back here because you're not being able to be satisfied. You know what I mean? Like you're still trying to find connections or make it make sense for you, at least. Let's use that phrase. I'm like, well, then that's probably for a reason, you know? And I realized like, that's what that does to people. They're the way they are. They ignore all the things that are going on with them because someone made them just think they were crazy and stupid. And they believed it, and they're old. And I only let them do that to me for 5 years. And what if it affected me for the rest of my life? I'd just be just like them, you know? Making people just stay contained. Somebody contained them, you know? And that's what I mean when I led with, I feel bad for them now. Because they just don't know, you know? And that's okay. So that makes me feel okay with me, you know, and okay with the situation at that point. Brings out pain in a lot of cases. Yeah. Instead of people leading with empathy. Yeah. They're doing only what they know. You know, I can't blame anybody. That's all they know, you know. My dad would tell me, you can't be mad if they don't know. I can't be. And it goes for any instance, because if people are raised a certain way, look at them. They were raised, that's all they know. They didn't have anybody else, break the mold like me until now. And they're old. They could have been old enough to be my parents. And they're just going based on how they think is appropriate. But then I see that they're inhibited still by, their lifestyle and the choices. It affects their whole life, So it says a lot for where it's coming from and the life they're living. I have to analyze all of it. It's like, then why are you living a life that you don't like? It affects their whole life. So it just helps me have that reminder. Sorry, I don't know if that made sense. I just lost my train of thought while I was ending that last thing I said. I can't blame someone for peeing in my Cheerios. I never told them I didn't like this in my Cheerios. Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about. I just forgot. Yeah, my dad would tell me that. And even from it could be politics, it could be hobbies, it could be ways of living. And some people just are doing what they believe, and they've yet to hear a different perspective. They never see anybody make it out of their frame of thinking, So then you'll see people just living as they thought was right. And some people don't have access to knowledge, or, they're just raised ignorant. Everybody around them is ignorant. They don't understand, whatever it is. And they're just absorbing what they think is right, And as kids, they do it. It starts as a child, So then people are having to spend the rest of their life unlearning, and they've yet to unlearn, So I can't be mad at them. I can't be upset at anybody, and I wasn't, I just knew I couldn't be around them, but I didn't know why. And I realized it was me. I'm not strong enough with being able to deliver the truth. That's it. Bad example. No, I get you. It made sense. Okay. I forgot what I was saying. But yeah. Well, I'm going to go now. I have to pee. I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back. I have to stream on Bigo. I have to do a workout there and all that stuff, so. And I'm about to piss my fucking pants. So, I'll see you guys. And this video is going to be posted to YouTube. And I appreciate you guys for being here. And thank you so much for wanting to talk in my chat. Because, I fucking need it. So, appreciate you. It was nice talking to you. Okay, see you guys. Bye.